June 15, 1944. Dawn broke over the Pacific in a haze of gun smoke and salt spray. The island of Saipan lay shrouded in a curtain of fire. For 2 days, American naval guns had bombarded the beaches relentlessly. Trees were splintered to matchsticks, bunkers collapsed, and the once green hills were charred black. As the barrage lifted, the sea came alive. A swarm of landing craft, amphibious tractors, and tanks surged toward the shore. It was one of the largest amphibious assaults of the Pacific War. Nearly 70,000 men of the U.S. 2nd and 4th Marine Divisions heading straight for an island barely 15 miles long. On shore, Japanese defenders clung to their posts, stunned but unbroken. Among them, the 9th Tank Regiment waited for orders. Their commander, Colonel Ikeda, knew the odds were impossible. His force of fewer than 40 operational tanks faced an enemy with overwhelming firepower. Yet his orders were absolute. Resist until death. No retreat. The first waves of Marines hit the beaches under heavy fire. Mortar rounds burst around them as Japanese gunners poured lead from hidden bunkers. Many Marines never made it off the sand. Those who did found themselves in a maze of trenches, caves, and concealed firing positions. Despite the chaos, by mid-morning, the Americans had secured a narrow beachhead. Sherman tanks from the 2nd Marine Division rolled ashore, their treads grinding through black volcanic sand. It was then that the Japanese armor stirred. Colonel Ikeda radioed his scattered units, ordering them to prepare for a counterattack. The Japanese plan was bold, perhaps desperate. They would wait until nightfall and then launch an all-out armored charge, hoping to drive the invaders back into the sea before they could consolidate. For the crews of the Type 95 Ha-Gos, it would be their first real battle against American tanks. Night fell over Saipan, and the island seemed to hold its breath. Then, in the distance, came the rumble of engines. The Japanese tanks began to move. Dozens of Ha-Gos emerged from their camouflaged positions, their headlights covered, rolling down narrow jungle trails toward the beaches. Each crew knew the risks. The Ha-Gos' armor, just half an inch thick in places, could be pierced by even a heavy machine gun. Its small 37mm cannon was useless against the Shermans. But still, they advanced. By midnight, the Japanese assault was underway. In a chaotic rush, the Ha-Gos and infantry stormed down the slopes toward the American lines. The first Shermans opened fire, and the night exploded in flame. Tracer rounds sliced through the darkness. Shells from American tanks tore through the thin armor of the Ha-Gos, igniting fuel and ammunition. The light tanks burst like paper lanterns, one after another, their burning silhouettes lighting the battlefield. But still they came. More tanks, more infantry, charging through the inferno. The Japanese were determined to fight to the last man. The battle that night was not merely a clash of men and machines. It was a collision of two worlds. The Japanese fought with devotion and courage, rooted in the Bushido spirit, the belief that honor in death was greater than life in defeat. The Americans fought with precision and coordination, backed by radios, artillery, and armor designed through industrial science. While Japanese crews relied on visual signals and shouted orders, American tank commanders communicated instantly by radio. They coordinated their fire, flanking enemy positions and calling in naval support when needed. Within hours, the result was clear. Nearly the entire 9th Tank Regiment had been wiped out. Only a handful of Ha-Gos managed to retreat into the hills. When dawn rose on June 16th, the beaches of Saipan were littered with the wreckage of war. Dozens of charred Ha-Gos tanks lay scattered among craters and twisted palm trees. The smell of burning oil hung in the air. For the Marines who advanced inland that morning, it was a sobering sight. The Japanese had fought with extraordinary bravery, but their weapons were relics. A Marine tank commander later wrote, "They came at us like ghosts out of the night. You had to respect their courage, but their tanks were no match. We cut them down one by one." The battle had demonstrated what every Japanese commander feared: the complete obsolescence of their armored forces. In the following days, small pockets of Japanese tanks continued to fight alongside infantry. Some were buried up to their turrets and used as stationary gun positions. Others were hidden in sugarcane fields, waiting for ambush. But without fuel, ammunition, or spare parts, their resistance was short-lived. The Americans advanced steadily, pushing deeper inland. Sherman tanks moved in coordination with infantry and flamethrower units, methodically clearing bunkers and caves. Naval artillery and carrier aircraft pounded Japanese positions day and night. Every attempt at counterattack ended the same way: in annihilation. By the third week of June, the Japanese line had collapsed. Saipan was now a battle of attrition. The surviving tank crews joined infantry units, fighting on foot with rifles and grenades. Colonel Iketa's command was gone. Nearly every Ha-Go on the island had been destroyed. Still, many refused to surrender. Japanese soldiers, including former tankers, launched suicidal night assaults, charging American lines in waves. The Americans called them banzai attacks, and on July 7th they faced the largest one of the Pacific War. Thousands of Japanese soldiers, armed with swords, rifles and bayonets, rushed forward in a final act of defiance. It was the end of organized resistance on Saipan. When the battle was over, Saipan was a graveyard of men and machines. More than 29,000 Japanese soldiers lay dead. Nearly every tank, gun and position had been destroyed. The Americans had suffered over 13,000 casualties, but the island was theirs. For Japan, the fall of Saipan was catastrophic. It brought American bombers within range of Tokyo for the first time and shook the confidence of Japan's military leadership. Prime Minister Hideki Tojo resigned soon after. The Type 95 Ha-Go, once the pride of Japan's armored forces, had been exposed as hopelessly outdated. But its crews had fought with a courage that would be remembered even by their enemies. The Battle of Saipan marked the moment Japan's armored doctrine collapsed under the weight of industrial warfare. Courage alone could not stop the tide of American production. The Ha-Go had entered the war as a symbol of innovation. It left as a relic of a vanished era. Across the Pacific, American engineers examined the wrecks, documenting their thin armor and light weaponry. The reports were conclusive. Japan had no answer to the Sherman. And yet, among the twisted metal and burned-out tanks, the stories of those who fought remained. Men who faced impossible odds, not for victory, but for honor. For them, Saipan was not just a battlefield, it was a final stand.